Look, it's going to be a while before we hear anything more about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, so the only way to find out about the stuff that's coming up is to look backwards at the old games. See, Pokemon loves to do little hints and references to the things that are gonna come into the future, but usually these things aren't really decipherable until the new games are out. Case in point, back in the days of X and Y, we knew that the strange souvenir meant something, but we didn't know what until Pokemon Sun and Moon were out, and we knew that it was the strange souvenir of the Alola region, and we knew, that's what that's about. Similarly, in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, this poster of Toxtricity wasn't even discovered until Sword and Shield was out, because how could you know this was a poster of a Pokemon that we've never seen before? I happen to love these little details in Pokemon games, and it just so happens that I've kind of developed a job about seeking them out and racking my brains, as well as watching old Easter eggs and reference videos of mine, which, by the way, I'd recommend them. They're a good watch. Definitely helps out the channel when you watch the whole playlist. Yahoo! And within Generation 8 of Pokemon, I've discovered the imagery of 5 creatures, all of which could be Pokemon in Generation 9 in Scarlet and Violet, or they might be nothing. That will be up for you to decide in the comments. Starting with number 1! Or 5, depending on how you want to do the ordering, if you want to do it in reverse order. I'm not really counting. We have the Hammerlock Dragons. Actually, this isn't just number 1, this is 1 and 2. There are 2 dragons in Hammerlock in Pokemon Sword and Shield that we never saw in the actual game, or in this generation at all. The Hammerlock Stadium is the home of the 8th Pokemon Gym, a gym that focuses on the dragon type. Naturally, there's a lot of dragon imagery in Hammerlock City to tie into that, but there are actually images of dragon creatures that don't appear to be regular Pokemon. I'll give an honorable mention to the gym logo, though I genuinely don't believe that this is referencing any kind of Pokemon, but at the top of the dragon vaults, there is this head of a dragon chicken thing, a basilisk most likely, or a cockatrice. These are creatures of mythology that I've wanted to see as Pokemon for ages. In fact, I did one for my Pokemon Tempest series called Avalisk. I think the idea of a basilisk / cockatrice Pokemon would be super, super cool, and this dragon head sits on the top of the dragon vaults of Hammerlock. And it's kind of odd, because Hammerlock used to be the central city of the Galar region. You can see by the walls of the castle it's clearly battle-worn, and it's dealt with a lot, including the Darkest Day 3,000 years ago. But the thing is, the Darkest Day tied to Eternatus, and Eternatus isn't the most conventionally dragon-looking dragon Pokemon. I suspected a long time ago in a Pokemon theory that this dragon head belonged to some legend, some myth that we hadn't yet seen. But we've now had the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra, and no such dragon is in sight anywhere. It's not even in Legends Arceus. Which leads me to believe that this dragon on the top of the Dragon Vaults may be a reference to a future legendary dragon Pokemon. But it doesn't stop there. I mentioned the gym badge logo as well, but there is also the giant dragon head that acts as the gate to Hammerlock. It's not exactly a subtle reference, but once again, there isn't a single legendary Pokemon in the Galar region that references this Pokemon. So this is my number 1 and 2. Could either of these dragons of Hammerlock be a reference to future Pokemon things? Maybe, maybe not. Next on the list is a Pokemon that actually appeared in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and I know what you're thinking, Toby, this is a Generation 4 remake, it's completely faithful, how can there possibly be some imagery or reference to a future Pokemon here? The thing is, it's not completely faithful, now is it? There are certain textures and models in the game that have been up-resed. What was before just a jumble of little pixels on a DS screen is now a full-blown work of art. And we can see above the Hearthome Church there is an imagery of something that before Pokemon Legends Arceus, people were saying, look, this is clearly the new Arceus form. And I'll be honest, I was surprised Arceus didn't get a new form. I thought just as much. But this imagery wasn't used for a new Arceus form, but you can definitely look at it and see a creature of some kind. Given that this would have been the perfect opportunity to turn this into artwork of Arceus, but they didn't do that, they put some other shape, it made sense to conclude that this is an Arceus form, but seeing as it's not an Arceus form, what is it? We have no idea. It may just be some random intricate pattern. It may be that staring at this for too long is making you see things that aren't there, and if that's the case, fair enough. But we have to look really, really hard. Remember that Toxtricity poster? how would you have known until you knew? Next up, we're actually going to look at the Pokemon anime. It's not totally unusual for the Pokemon animated series to make reference to upcoming Pokemon games. It's something I've talked about on the channel a long time ago. There was something right before the Generation 5 arc of the anime where Jesse and James in Pokemon, they reference something. They're in the Magikarp sub and they reference finding sapphires and rubies, emeralds, diamonds and pearls. Wouldn't that be nice, they say, and then James says it's not always that black and white, clearly being a direct reference to Pokemon Black and White that were to come following Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Diamond and Pearl. All of this to say, this is actually something I showed off right before Sword and Shield came out, imagery of James imagining some powerful legendary Pokemon. And it looks to be some kind of fire-breathing lizard, fire-breathing dragon. I actually had some artwork commissioned of what this might look like, what I imagined it to be, and it's pretty spot on. I then wondered after the fact if perhaps this could be a Gigantamax Charizard reference, but I'm still not sure. Recently, one of my lovely viewers over on Twitter messaged me and said, hey, what about maybe a Feucoco evolution? And I don't know, anything is possible. For now, this might just be the imagery, the imagination of James of absolutely nothing, or it may be the depiction of a future legendary Pokemon, perhaps even pushed back a generation from Sword and Shield. And then finally, I know it's kind of a small video, we're led on to number 5, and this one's really interesting because this one appears in Pokemon Legends Arceus. And it is a detail that I very nearly missed, but it's fantastic. So when I'm looking for this kind of thing, posters and imagery, where am I gonna look? Well, if it was Sword and Shield, I usually go to the more populated areas, so maybe the dojo in the Isle of Armor, or Freezington, the player house, and just have a look around, look at the things on the walls, the details. So remember, we're trying to get that Toxtricity image level of certainty. With Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, I'm looking at those graphical updates. Is there anything new? Is there anything interesting here? With Legends Arceus, I guess I can go to the only place that there is civilization, and that is Jubilife Village, or the Diamond and Pearl clan tents. And I have a look around, the village, and I'm looking and trying to find imagery of anything to do with Pokemon. Is there anything that looks off here? And then I see this image of Magikarp. And you might be thinking, yes, Toby, that's a Magikarp, except in other houses, there is this image of a Magikarp. Why are there two assets that are serving the exact same function in Pokemon Legends Arceus? We also know that the people of Jubilife Village know what a Magikarp looks like. Just look at the top of the galactic headquarters, there's a giant Magikarp up there. So what's this other Magikarp-like fish? It actually doesn't make sense that there would be two separate assets here of Magikarp. That's just silly. You're doubling the amount of things that you need to put in the game. Unless this Magikarp is a regional variant of a future Magikarp that we're gonna see in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And that would make a lot of sense. Because Magikarp has Pokedex entries talking about how in the olden days it used to be a lot stronger. Perhaps there is some variation of Magikarp out there that just didn't turn into whatever this modern day version is. And we know Magikarp's a Pokemon that likes to variate because just look at Feebas, a Pokemon that is almost identical and yet at the same time very, very different to Magikarp. This is just what Magikarp does. So a regional variant wouldn't surprise me at all. Feebas is a regional variant before regional variants. If Feebas was released today, that would just be Hoenn Magikarp. That's just what that would be. I hadn't thought about that before, that's wild. Now look, if you're watching to this point of the video, I have to say, hi, thank you, you're my secret audience. If you're watching to this part of any of my videos, I can't tell you how much of a difference it makes that you watch this far through. It really means the world, thank you. If you're watching this though, you might feel like maybe I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel here. And again, just one final time, I really want to point out, this was a poster in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon of Toxtricity. We had no way to know until the games came out. So in the future, I will either look very, very smart, like a prophet, or far more likely, even if these Pokemon are real, I'll look like an idiot, but at least we'll have had fun. So let me know what you're thinking down in the comments. Are any of these likely to be future Pokemon? I'd love to know what you're thinking. And of course, soar high, Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master!
As always, a huge thank you to those of you supporting me on Patreon, including the big patrons of this month, Jedruben and Michael Hornschuch. Thank you so much.